I'm going to read from a new manuscript, a new-ish manuscript, unpublished. I suppose you don't need a whole lot of context except that it basically has 3 characters. A elusive man who just goes by the name of J, the letter, an anonymous narrator who's trying to figure out what the hell's up with J, and then this kind of androgynous person who's sometimes a girl who arrives randomly. Then he thought my song wasn't happening, that it was just a dream token, yet my song still broke, and still he broke with it. Still, I tried to sing over him, but I do not have the voice of a bird, let alone a god bird's voice. I'll never have that. I was desperate, wiping old pieces of cloud and lip from my mouth. I couldn't bear it. At times I swear I couldn't bear it, but even if he could, I had to convince myself of this. I was saving him the whole time, and he knew it. If this saving were unreal, none of this could be, for to break containers must first be real. Yes, then ours was a loud descent, louder than all the potential of all thunder in the sky as it cut through us and down us, but his voice was louder still. Yes, I was giving it to him, this voice, this crash, even this drowning. Yes, that must be it. I was holding him with it, with my hands, with my breaking, by my living. I was letting him live one more time. I was stopping my gorgeous breath, stuttering madly, smashing my eyelids shut, resolutely extending my palms in hopes that the neutral point of love would find its way to my fingertips so that I could show him what I'd found and say, this, Jay, this is what it was. When we landed with a blue spark that did not become a fire, we were simply castaways. The river was strange, yet somehow it was shallow too, splashing gently over my knees, which hit before the rest of me. Despite the small splash, we learned quickly that both shores and horizons actually fail to stop, because nonsense is a large net with nothing to catch. My heart was just a monstrous string then, pulling at things far beyond and before time. There's no getting to know the world past you, I said, and I wept. I've always been so wrong. Why can't I hold myself up for as long as is necessary? Why can I not give this thing to you or me? Why and where does it go when you refuse to take it? What do I hold when I refuse to stand? I pulled my empty palms into my chest. There was silence then, and a moon that was not a satellite, and room to be made, but we didn't make it. Nothing really appeared before us, just a bobbing net filled with ink and feathers, rinds and pockets. He chuckled, then howled, then bounced into his old disdain and cried, "Ha! Try me on now, why don't you?" But I didn't. I was tired. That became the shape of the future, the one I crushed repeatedly in my fingernails. That was it there, dirt and flame. "Stop singing, you sound like a monk," he said. I said I wasn't singing. He hissed simply, "Me." Then he mouthed, "You were never a poet. You were just a front for a tender ream of paper." I wanted to say, "Jay, give me back my shame so I can walk with it as I should have all this time. Let me place it in a cradle, back by the bay, over there between where you left and where you tried." Instead, I said, "Just promise me one thing." I said it even though he was just a green slither. "Promise me, before you rush and leap to the sun or to the shackle or wherever your proposed future's terror is. I don't care what the promise is." I said, "Just make me one. I want to be able to say I wanted such stuff as that. I want to be able to say, I got it. I want to be able to scratch, to scrape the soft tilt of such a fire, to put my hand right into the dust, because dust and ash are the same, Jay," I said. "The differences are inconsequential. Flakes of skin, flakes of carbon, who cares? All these stains flung so widely in the mire, so organic," I said, "so tall with beauty, lame with pride. Just give me this one thing, because I must be able to both love and close a door, to come upon a third space. I must be able to touch air that rightly. Jay, it was you who taught me how to be this strange, wasn't it? Tell me, was it you who taught me how to have so many details? Promise me. But he didn't. Instead, he called out, your grammar betrays you. Get away from the sentences of a dark. You're a slave to them. Go away, you fortress, you ridiculous fault. Erase whatever you can while your lantern's glow is still crisp, like a talon. Crunch that moldy string into the earth with your clever knee. I will wait. I am enraging all the corks and coffins by the fire for you. You need nothing. Go. That was the last ricochet before the hole in his guitar filled with creatures and cement. So I went. I really did. At first I dragged myself, and then I stood, sloshing through an inch of water at the bank. Then after 1,000 miles of tiny current, I arrived at the edge of the river, only to discover the hill that was the shelf above my tan shore. Like a sponge, I peered down the slope and saturated my skin with what I found. There was someone there. She was just a tired girl, maybe a lady or some sand castle trying. It was hard to say. She counted her sack-like handful of rocks. The rocks had some sand castle. The rocks had a stream inside them. The steam had a moat inside it, the tiniest little thing. Who traveled in the moat she held, she did not know. When she looked up and saw me there, she told me all of this. She told me about the storied unknown. I'm telling you the truth. Perhaps it was the smell or the light she held and not the moat. Her ears were aflame, so perhaps it was the flame she held and not the rocks. Perhaps it was the flame that made her see right through herself and into the sand. She could not touch anything or put anything down. Everything had to be held like a stream which had only one question regarding its posies and its mud. Where? I knew this without asking. There were dogs who had no tails. Almost everything had a little steam coming out of it and slithered like a curve. I watched her balance on the rocks as she put them in the water with what appeared to be belief. They were pockmarked, full of eyes. They were charted from the inside by a different stream, a hidden contour, hardly seen. I want to say all this was nature or fate, but it's not. For when there is nature and fate, there are no choices, and to have no choices is almost never the truth. One knows this if they've ever been nearly human. You can say this about most situations which do not involve war or rape or distinctly abject floundering. So maybe it's not true to say such words as, she only knew the way the tiny moat led, down inside the rock and steam, for she was not abject or entangling herself from a bomb, and she was not raped, not really. Oh, but the past is like a dream you can sleep back into. I think she wanted to tell me this, but she could not find herself. At the end of life, when you're about to die, life is like this too. Unattainable, backwards floating, a dirt or growth you think you can touch, but you can't. It's that simple. You will never have it. I have these demonstrations on my body, so I know. Pen marks, remnants of pox. All these tokens will disappear in time, but not together. For what it's worth, this is objective. Nothing gets an alternative. There's just a narrowly drawn path we trod down, single file, as tinged and round as stone. This is the juice and the stone of life. This is the stone and the time. Everything else is subtext. She was nearly human, and she knew clocks and faces, and she knew her own, and she knew how to read them all with every inch of pride and hope she could contain. She deserved her pride. She had earned it. She was fluent with herself, even through stacks of forgetting. She saw her own forgetting. She knew how to touch the relevant knobs and bolts with her hand, even when they were down low, even when the door looked like a sieve. But sometimes she simply chose to rest instead. I walked down the hill, and she said to me, quickly, here are the raw materials. Now go, find the fiber and all the ends, and the jeans and the light. Take this, she said, offering me a palm of water specked with white spots. I tried to, but it spilled between our waists. No problem, she said. It'll just be another path. And she looked back to the water. But why are you so sad after all this time, I asked her. What do you mean, she replied, and there was a silence, and she asked, and you? What of you? Promptly, I told her, there's been a tremor over there by the tar, past the ark. She smiled, very calmly. Don't worry, there's no sky that faces in that direction. There are no temples, there's nothing to shake, and she laughed. I implored her, I don't understand. But she just shrugged her small shoulders and said, I don't know. Things exist, then they don't. And since most of the time there's nothing left, there's no reason to be haunted. Having disclosed herself in this way, she nudged the back of her own knee with her fist, trying to walk. But there was no movement or flame, as someone had promised her. There was nothing left anymore to incite her riot, so her riot slept, once again flawlessly angled at the back of her eye. Her fibers pulled at themselves, wrapped around her like a scarf, or maybe a tent, waiting for keys, waiting for rooms, waiting for a golden ruler to measure that which she had been convinced was something other than her heart. Sullen and end-wrought, she slipped the river. Water sat in her spot by the shore, at the end of the hill near my overgrown garden. She refused to clip weeds, for which I revered her. She covered herself with a raft made out of tires and wood on the other side of the hill at the open-air shop in a town I'd never noticed before. A dog gagged on a tiny stone and scratched his cataract. He stood for a moment near the town's small gate, then continued on with his blockages. The dogs here are always gagging, then moving on, because someone has told them about their alleged place amidst the steam. There's nothing you can't take away from here, and what you do take, you'll never know you've ever had it. You'll never know if it dropped or if it stayed. She is here. She proclaims from beneath herself, which is the inside of my palm and my pain, which is J. Someday, she proclaims, when the light in your lungs starts to end, you will remember me, finally, as I always was, a sentience, a creature, and I will look to you and see a creature too, and there will be nothing left but a flicker on a flat river, and its quiet fading, and the stain of a past that couldn't be here because of the shadowy children and the forest who hoard it deep within their breath, righteous, so unwilling to be martyred. And this is how they will die, with this hoarding if they die at all. There's a waterfall, and you can hear it. You can even sense its phony moat down in the place where truth is. But you'll never touch it, because that is how it goes with phony moats, inside steam, inside a sack of rocks, carried along by some shit on the brink. This is what we have. This is what we gave. Put out your ears, she says. Your excuses for being a flame are as flimsy as a song. I fall into the sand. This is what we all choose eventually. And then there'll be nothing to hold, except the occasional story, the occasional eye or crest will need to be amended. In a place so far away that I can no longer hold it up against a globe, Jay said, I will take your picture while you write. I will stand behind you. Each time you sing or flounder, I will be there. Each time you cry or count, I will be there. With all the mounting noises in the backs of the room, with every piece of ash on my feet, with all of the sages who pass by in threes, I will watch, and I will listen, and I will cry. He said, all spheres are cranky and contained, so it doesn't matter anyways. I will hold you with me. There's no difference between any of these things, really, he's saying. They can all always develop sores, tameness, cataracts, the steam shell of the eye, dying with their mouths full of sand. They will all say things like, "Put my love beneath you, I had love." Thank you.